Hello and welcome back to Joel Explores Tech. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the AT&T Pc 6300, a machine I recently picked up. This was the same model as the first PC I used growing up in my home, and we actually had a family friend that went on a long summer vacation. So for a number of months, I had the machine in my house and was able to learn GW Basic, get used to MS-DOS 3 that came with the machine. It came with really nice printed manuals, so I was able to dig through and learn a lot in those early PC days. I picked the machine up from a local seller and haven't been able to confirm yet if the machine functions. So we'll start off by taking a look at the outside, then opening the machine up and take a look at the insides, confirm the power looks good, and then we'll give it a power on test and maybe even try out some software. So join me as I explore the PC 6300. Let's start out looking at the keyboard of the machine. It's a fairly unique layout. It's got this really long space bar. They're fairly nice clicky keys, not as nice as something like a Model M, but it is nice to have the mechanical key switches. Has the numeric keypad, no separate arrow keys, but we can use the number arrows. It does have a LED on the numlock and caps lock, and then the function keys down the left side. The keyboard actually uses a proprietary connector that plugs into the back of the machine, and one of the reasons for that is that the back of the keyboard actually has a port for a mouse that can plug into the keyboard, similar to what you might see on a Macintosh, but fairly unique for a PC of the time. On the back, we've got some interesting toggleable feet here for different heights of the keyboard. Looks like 3 different positions. A little bit of rust on mine here, but we'll get that cleaned up. These machines were branded as AT&T, but are actually made by Olivetti, manufactured in Italy. The machine is actually a rebadge of the Olivetti M24 machines. So then on the front of the machine, we've got a hard drive and a 5 1/4 floppy. We've got the PC 6300 branding, AT&T. Sort of this dual tone on the case here. Some might be wondering why there's all this ventilation on the bottom. We'll see that in a minute, one of the unique features of this case. It does have a green power LED light here, as well as a reset button, which was not common on XT machines, so it's nice to be able to reset the machine from the front. Looking at the back of the machine, we can see this large fan that's actually attached on the outer case versus being built into the power supply. We've got our standard power IEC connector as well as an output for the monitor. We've got a power button, and this is that proprietary keyboard connector. We have parallel 25-pin serial as well as a 25-pin connector for the monitor. So again, a proprietary monitor connection. So it does require the specific monitor. One thing I would like to do is explore that output a bit. I've read online that it is a RGB analog signal, but there may be some incompatibilities with the sync signals as far as getting it into VGA. But with something like the RGB to HDMI, it might be possible to convert this to a modern video connector, just in case the monitor that came with the machine is non-functional. Overall, the outside of the case actually looks pretty good. There's a little bit of rust. I'm not sure if this will come off, we'll have to see, but all the connectors look pretty good, and the outer portion of the case should clean up really well. So I think to start, let's go ahead and open up the top of the case. There's looks to be 2 flathead screws, and I believe these are captive to the case. Yep. So first off, you'll probably notice that the board is very sparse. There's no CPU or RAM or anything on this top board here, and that's because this is actually sort of almost a backplane for the system, and the motherboard actually lives in the bottom portion of the case with the connection from the motherboard to this top expansion bus card coming through the video card. So the video card actually has a bottom card connector and a top card connector, and then the signals flow up through the video card into this expansion card. We've got a CGA card. That is that proprietary connector that we're seeing on the back. I believe the output is not actually standard CGA, but as I mentioned, a analog RGB signal, but it is proprietary to the monitor. I believe the monitor that came with this system is a monochrome, but this is the both color and monochrome card. So if you did have that color monitor, you would get color on there. Looks like we have a drive controller. Yeah, this is for the hard drive here, a Tandem. We've got some interesting things going on with the power supply. So there's these sort of large wires running from the power supply hooking into the motherboard. Those probably are going to be 5 volts, and then carries through from the top here down into the motherboard on the bottom. And for the floppy, it looks like I'm seeing the floppy ribbon coming up from the bottom motherboard and connecting into the back of the 5 1/4 floppy. Another interesting thing with the way they have, there was 2 configurations of the machine, and you can see it has A with the arrow pointing down. These are actually just separate plastic pieces. So there's a configuration that had a drive to 2 floppies, and then so this plastic piece would have had the B with the arrow pointing up. Kind of an interesting detail there that they just had those configurable pieces to show the drive letters. So we've got 7 ISA expansion slots. And then the other really unique thing is that it's got these extra slots, connectors for 16-bit, because this machine is actually using the 8086 versus the 8088 in the XT. The 8088 was 8-bit, with the 8086 having full 16-bit. And so these expansion cards give you a little bit more capability with 16-bit data. I believe there is a EMS expansion card as well as a base memory expansion card that can take advantage of these special ports. Also on the back there we can see this is the fan connector coming into the power supply, going to that back fan. But I think that covers the top portion of the case. Let's go ahead and flip the case over and take a look at that motherboard on the bottom. With the machine flipped over, I've loosened 2 more captive screws on the bottom half of the case. And we can open up and see the motherboard. So with the bottom of the case off, everything looks pretty good. Nothing on the board itself. One thing that is really nice with this odd setup with the board facing towards the bottom of the case is that if the battery does leak on any of these machines, it is leaking downward onto the metal case. And we can see that on the case itself, where we've got kind of a shiny area compared with the more matte finish of the rest of the case where the battery was leaking. A little bit of corrosion and kind of rust, but that should clean up all right, and luckily is not on the board itself. So that'll be one of the first things, is to get that battery off of there, just to prevent any further corrosion. A few other things to note. We have the memory of the system. Half of it is socketed to provide for upgrades. We have our 8086 CPU, as well as a socket for a FPU, which I want to explore at some point as a potential upgrade. Although there's not a lot of software that uses it, I think it'd be fun to play around in Fractant or a couple other DOS programs that do utilize a floating point unit. We also have the BIOS ROMs. These are at version 1.21. There is a 1.43 BIOS that has a lot of fixes for this machine. And luckily enough, when I went to pick up the machine, there was actually a surprise in that the seller actually had a separate board that was included in the sale. I didn't realize that there was a board in the machine as well as a separate board. This one as well has the 8086, but does have those 1.43 ROMs. So I'll probably try transferring these into the existing board if this one is working. Other interesting things to note, with these being an At&T branded machine, it's interesting that they used a phone headset speaker for the speaker in the system. This board has had the battery already removed, and they've got a dual AAA case here, it looks like, for placing a battery, as well as a reset switch that's not mounted to the board like it is on our previous one. We have some dip switches for configuring things on the system. I believe these are used when you want to disable a video card or some other functionality in the system. That's one of the things that the 1.43 ROM provides, is the ability to support replacement video card with VGA or EJ even. And another thing that came along with the purchase was this memory board. I think this is just for extending the base memory. That other motherboard has all the memory soldered on, and I believe it is 256. And this provides an extra 384, I believe, of memory, with one bank being socketed and the other being built in. So this would bring you up to 640K on that other motherboard. This isn't the EMS card, which would provide that upper memory for DOS. And then we can see as well that it's using that extra 16-bit slot to give you the same access speed as the motherboard itself would have. A few other things to note while we're taking a peek here. We've got that floppy connector running from that bottom motherboard through to the top. You can also see the bottom card connectors on that, so that these two are the bottom of that CGA video card. This is a power connector running up to the video card, and these two posts here are the bottom of those 5-volt large connectors on the top side. So at least visually, I think everything is looking good here for a test. Next up, we'll take a peek at the monitor, and then we will put everything together in a testable state and do a power on test. And last up on the quick tour of the machine, we have the CRT monitor. This is the green monochrome version. There was a color version as well. There are two potentiometers, one under the left side for brightness, one under the right side for contrast. I might be able to see those if I tip it back here a bit. So we can see both those. I think the way the monitor is opened is through these two slots here. There's no screws anywhere on the casing to open it. So I think those allow you to pop this front bezel off to access some screws that then allows you to pull off the outer casing. It has a really nice, pretty smooth swivel, mostly due to it being a smaller screen. I think it's a 11 or 12 inch display. Turning it to the side, you can see it has this kind of beveled foot. I don't think there's any electronics in this bottom outside of the cable that runs into the back and then up into the monitor itself where all the electronics are. One thing I didn't mention was that the as you can see, there's no power cable, and that video card actually provides both the video signal and the power for the monitor through the one cable, which is nice, though the color version of the monitor does have a separate power cable. And then as you can see, we've got the AT&T branding, but otherwise no other screws or anything to access. So that's what's leading me to believe that the way to access the internals would be through the front there. So that is the quick overview of the hardware. Let's go ahead and get the machine set up and do a quick power on test. So I've tested all the voltages on the power rails of the machine. Everything looks good. So I think we're good to go ahead and do our first power up test. I left the top of the machine off just so we can get a better look if anything goes crazy here. Let's go ahead and flip the switch and see what we get. So the fan's not too crazy. We're not getting a power light. Oh, okay, we've got video. We're seeing the scan showing up on the background, and the contrast is not taking effect. So probably something with the potentiometer there is off. But we can see, so we've got that 1.21 BIOS that we did see. That version is showing. All our startup diagnostics look good. RAM, ROM, DMA timer, DMA control, interrupts. So we've got 640 on the board, so that's good. Real-time clock is passing evidently. The light is on the drive, so it's waiting. I don't hear or see any activity from the drive itself. I'm a little worried with this being an older drive that's probably not going to be an option, but I do have a XT IDE, so we can do some testing with that if I can't get the drive to spin up. The caps lock and num lock are working. Yep, Control-Alt-Delete is working, so at least on a basic level we're getting keyboard functionality. And then also, as mentioned, this machine has the hardware reset, so let's give that a try. Yep, that's working as well. Looks like the height might be off as well, but there's no external controls on the screen. So I'll probably have to open up the screen to take a look both at the potentiometer for that contrast knob, as well as looking into potentially adjusting the height, because at least from what I'm seeing, the background being too bright, it seems like the height is off there. So we'll have to see if we can get that adjusted. At least brightness wise though, it's really bright, and I'm not seeing any signs of burn-in, so that's really good. There's a little bit of wavering. It's going to need some recapping or deoxit in some of those potentiometers to get things going smooth again. But that's good. I don't actually have a boot disk that I can test out. So probably the next step, I think, will be to get the XT IDE installed, and we'll see if we can boot off of that. I've loaded up some XT software on the drive, and we'll see if we can boot in and do some basic testing. Let's go into check it first. And confirmed, no math coprocessor. And it does see as a Olivetti machine. Let's do just a CPU test. Okay, so as expected, I believe these run at, I think it's 8 megahertz, so about double the speed of the original XT. Let's do the video. And we can see we're getting the CGA snow. So again, just a bit faster than IBM XT video, about double. I'll just let this run just to check out the memory. So that completed. Doesn't give any errors, but I'm seeing some odd text messaging here, which could be just the particular version of Check It I downloaded has an issue. I'll have to confirm that, but yeah, it definitely doesn't look happy there. So possibly something either compatible with this machine or that version of Check It itself is off. Let's go ahead and reboot. Interesting. So we're getting an odd video pattern. Let's try a full power recycle. So even after a quick power cycle, we're still getting odd issues here. I'm wondering if it is something in the video memory. Let me power it off and give it a few minutes just to see if that clears out the issue. All right, power cycling again. And we are definitely not happy on that video. I've also removed the XT IDE just in case there was a conflict there. But this is looking like something with the video itself. We are getting a different pattern than we were before. I'm going to check the connections. I believe this is the power for the monitor. The fact that we were getting a raster image lends me to believe that the monitor is fine outside of the contrast issue we were seeing, but that there's actually something off with the video card itself. Nothing feels excessively warm on the board. I'm going to reseat the connection. We'll give it another try. Okay. So maybe there was just something with that connector that was off on the back there. A loose connection. Okay, let me shut it down and get the XT IDE back in place. It makes me wonder then if that Check It issue was just a coincidence, or if something with the video signal driving and a connection on the connector being just slightly loose there, maybe tripped something. or just something was off with the sync, or I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. But it seems to be working as it was now again. We'll do one other test. Got the classic alley cat. Or no, I think it's cat. So graphics are working, that's good, in addition to the text modes that we've seen so far. It's never very good at this game. All right, well that seems to be working as well. I think that's enough testing for this video. I just wanted to confirm that we could run some benchmarks and confirm a game is working, that we're getting sound out of the PC speaker. So some of the future updates I want to look into getting going on the machine are getting the that 1.43 BIOS from the other motherboard, maybe installed on this one, or possibly swapping out the motherboards depending on the compatibility there. I want to try installing a Sound Blaster ISA card. I've got the Sound Blaster 2.0, so that's another upgrade I'd like to try. Along with that BIOS update, that would enable the ability to potentially install a VGA card. And then another thing I wanted to try out on the machine was the Pico Mem, which is an ISA card emulator that can emulate different memory map modes, so we could try out some EMS, and you can do USB joystick support as well as an SD card, allowing you to do something similar to the XT IDE. So a number of different things I want to try out on the machine. I was able to track down the custom mouse for the machine as well. You can use a standard serial mouse on the back, but one really cool thing with the mouse that plugs into the keyboard is even without a mouse driver, the mouse will function as arrow keys. So you can move up and down, and it will actually act as up and down, left, right key presses. So I think that'll be a cool thing to take a look at. And then the final things, I wanted to try putting a V30 and a math coprocessor in the machine as well to play with those. So definitely some updates I'd like to do in a future video. Also the monitor, we're gonna have to get that opened up and looked at. I haven't seen another video on YouTube showing how to disassemble this monitor, so I'll probably do a video documenting opening and getting the monitor fixed up, just in case anybody else needs to follow the same process. So I think that wraps it up for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.